Hi, I'm Anthony Originello, CEO of the Chartered Professionals in Human Resources for BC and Yukon. We represent more than 8,000 members, and as the organization dedicated to advancing the HR profession through education, advocacy, awareness, professional development, as well as our recognized and impactful CPHR designation, we are proud to be a sponsor of this show. We have been the voice of the HR profession since 1942. Learn more about us at cphrbc.ca.
In this edition of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Vicki, or Victoria Yehl, from the BC Securities Commission Corporate Finance Department. Victoria, welcome.
Hi, Stu. Pleasure to be here.
What exactly is your job?
Well, my job at the British Columbia Securities Commission is I'm the manager of mining. Prior to that, I was what's called a senior geologist. I am a geoscientist by training, and I'm now a regulator. I used to be an exploration geologist, and now I help companies make the disclosure that they need to make about their mineral projects. And I review things like technical reports and make sure they have the information they're supposed to have in them so the public has confidence in the markets and invests in exploring and mining companies here in British Columbia and across Canada.
So, on a day-to-day basis, what are the kinds of activities that you then undertake to be able to fulfill your, required mandate?
The required mandate is I have to understand what's called the national instrument, and it's about the standards of disclosure on mineral projects. So it tells you how to talk about your mineral projects. So I do look, as mentioned, at technical reports, news releases, PowerPoint slide decks that the various companies that are based here in Vancouver and across Canada, that they produce for the public to understand what they're working on. And I say, are you including the information that's in the national instrument, part of securities law, that you're supposed to share with the public? So what commodity are you looking for? Where are you looking for it? Do you have the permits you need to look for these things? And then if they're not including all the information, my role is to communicate that back to the company and improve their disclosure. You need to include this information or that information. So it's built on a number of years prior to joining the BC Securities Commission, almost 10 years ago. For the 25 years before that, I was an exploration geologist. I was a mine geologist. I worked in business development for an exploration and mining company. I worked for one of the provincial governments mapping rocks all over a few provinces and that sort of thing. So I take all of my knowledge about rocks and minerals, and I take all of my knowledge from my previous work, and I make sure that the companies that are trying to raise money to find more mines, develop more mines, look for different things, that they're communicating the way they're supposed to so that the public feels confident in their investments.
Well, do you do all that work on your own, or do you have a team?
There's a small team across Canada, in the various provinces and territories. There's 8 people, I'm one of those 8, that looks at these technical disclosures, whether it be a report or a news release or anything else. So here in BC, at the British Columbia Securities Commission, we're a team of 4. Right now, all 4 of us are geologists. We have had mining engineers in the past. And then there's 2 more geoscientists in Ontario, and there's 2 more in Quebec working on the same thing. And then our colleagues in Alberta have an energy group, and they look at oil and gas disclosure, and I think they have 5 geologists and engineers. So total, we're about 13 people across the country that try to make sure all of this disclosure is the way it should be so the public can feel confident in their investments.
So you're doing a lot of reading.
Yes, a lot of reading. Geologists love that, because if we can't be out picking up rocks and cracking them open and seeing what's inside them, we love reading about geology. It's a bit of a dream job. I get to read geology all day, every day, and someone pays me to do it.
But then you have to turn around and issue some kind of finding or a report, do you?
Yeah. Well, we will go directly to a company, and if we don't have anything to say, we leave them be. But we may send them what we refer to as a comment letter. It's not that scary. Our role is not to get people, it's to improve the disclosure made to the public. So we'll send them a comment letter and say, here's some things that you need to fix. Here's some information you should be including. So sometimes Nobody likes to be regulated. If you're pulled over for speeding, you're going to go, oh, that's awful. But we're not really cops. We're just the guardrails that keep people on the same path and make sure that the public gets the information they want and they need to make investment choices and decisions.
Part of your job, though, because you said you have a small team, is you must have to manage that team.
Yep. We talk all the time. The four of us speak every day. We have group chats. We want to make sure that we're being consistent, that we're following the rule. We're not making things up. It's not about what we want to see. It's about what the disclosure rule says has to be included. So when we do send out comments to somebody, we say, this is the part of the rule that you didn't fulfill. Please do this. We tell them exactly what, so that they hopefully don't make the same mistake or exclusion the next time. And it's all about improving disclosure. It's not about punishing people or catching people or doing anything like that. It's actually just communication skill.
You also have a bit of an outward-facing role as well.
Yep.
You're here talking to me. So education must be a part of what you do.
It is. Education and outreach is definitely about part of what we do. We do it to anyone who wants to understand how this disclosure is supposed to be made. So we give short courses, we conduct webinars. Sometimes I get to come to interviews like this and discussions like this, which is a lot of fun. And it's good so that people, and that includes the public and the industry, know that there are ways to communicate and that they remain consistent and that they're useful for people. Any of the disclosure rules that the British Columbia Securities Commission's the Securities Commission has, and across the country, the Canadian Securities Administrator, it's the umbrella organization that dictates what people do across the country in the various jurisdictions. They want it to be consistent. And that way people can feel that they have that confidence in their investments. They're getting the same information, whether it be about a gold project or a lithium project or specialty metals or the critical minerals we're hearing so much about today. So they're getting the same information and they can say, oh, I still want to just invest in gold, or I want to invest in one of these critical minerals.
So let's go back earlier in your life. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school in Ontario. I'm a transplant, but I've been in British Columbia for about 32 years now. Wouldn't move back, but I went to high school outside of Toronto.
And you had told me in a previous conversation that you loved rocks when you were a kid.
Yep.
But by the time that you were graduating from high school, did you know that you wanted to be a geologist?
No, I did not know that I wanted to be a geologist, but the high school that I attended actually had a grade 11 geology course. And I took that grade 11 geology course. And my high school has graduated a large number of geologists that are actually still in the industry today. And a few of them are transplants out here to British Columbia. And they've stayed and spent their careers here. But when I graduated high school, I had no idea. I thought I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. Many kids do. And I didn't do very well in first year university, actually. And I wanted to salvage a science degree. I was in a science program. And because I'd taken that grade 11 geology course and because I liked camping outside, I was flipping through the university course calendar and I'm like, oh, geology, I'll become a geologist. My roommate at university said, oh, you can't look through the course calendar and announce you're going to be a geologist. My family was a little bit concerned as well. But once I took my first university level geology course, I was hooked and I never looked back.
So how many years were you in school before graduating?
I did a 4-year degree in geology, and then I did a master's degree in geology. I was really at university for just 6 years, 4 and 2 years for the master's, but it looks like 7 if you look at my CV because I had to pay for it in the middle of my master's. So I took a year between to go and do some work so that I could finish my master's degree and pay off some student debt.
So any issues getting a job?
I've never had any. I've always been very fortunate. There's definitely been downturns in the industry, but there's always opportunities. It might just be a different role. There's so many different aspects of geology and geoscience and mining and exploration.
So you graduated from university, then what was your first job?
My first job out of university, was the job that brought me to British Columbia. So I graduated and I started working for Cominco, which became Tech Cominco, and now the organization that was Tech.
So were you based in Trail, or were you here in Vancouver?
I was based in Vancouver, but they sent me up to the Yukon, and I got to work on a project looking for a zinc body in the Yukon. So that was my very first job. They literally flew me away the day I graduated from my master's degree, and I went straight to the Yukon. Bypassed the office, didn't come into the office for some months, but that's okay.
How long did you work for Tech?
Over 20 years.
My, oh my, you had a great career with them.
Yeah, it was a fabulous place to grow up. I value my colleagues that are still there today and others that have moved on. It's where I learned to do what I do now.
What were the range of roles that you got to enjoy while you were there?
I was an exploration geologist. My original title was Geologist 1, which meant I did all the dirty work, if you will. I was collecting rocks and wading through streams and all kinds of things like that, and going all over Canada and the world to do that. I was actually a production geologist at one of the mine operations, the Polaris zinc mine in the Northwest Territories. However, it ended up being in Nunavut. I went to bed one night in the Northwest Territories and I woke up in Nunavut the next day. That was always interesting, to be in a new body of Canada all of a sudden. So I was the underground geologist, and I drove a little Jeep down what's called a decline, and I would check out everywhere we were mining on a daily basis. I did a whole bunch of business development with the company in different aspects. So we would go and look at different projects and see whether those were a fit, and things like that. It was always something new, something different. Worked all over the world, looked for diamonds, looked at oil sands, looked for copper, looked for zinc, looked for gold. It was just too many things to quantify.
And so what then led you to the BC Securities Commission?
I was traveling a lot. I used to be sitting on planes, and used to be predominantly Air Canada, and I used to sit beside one of the long haul pilots on the regular basis, and he was going home, and he told me that I was flying more than he did. So that became a bit of a concern. I had been traveling a ton, and I decided that maybe I wanted to do something a little bit different. I loved the travel. I still do love traveling. Booked a Black Friday travel special just this morning. But I decided I wanted to do something different, and I accidentally saw a job advertisement for the BC Securities Commission, and I would look at technical reports in my previous roles to find projects, and I'm like, hey, I know what doing this is. Or so I thought. And so I applied for the role, and Tech taught me to recognize opportunities, and this was just an opportunity to do something different. I think they were sorry to see me go, but I joined the commission after going through their interview process, and it's been an interesting new challenge, and I really love what I do.
So, first of all, congratulations on your success. What would you say is a trait that you've discovered about yourself that you think has been important to your career success?
Learning to think before I speak. I paused there on purpose. Communicating about what I do. Because I used to go and do some property evaluations, as they'd be referred to, or set up properties that Tech didn't want anymore, that they wanted to have other people continue to explore. It is really a little bit of a communication skill, and thinking about what is actually the purpose. Sometimes people talk about things and they give all kinds of information, but what's the nugget, pun intended? What is the nugget of what you're trying to communicate to people? So distilling a lot of information.
Isn't that interesting? Sometimes people say, well, I learned I'm more curious than I thought, or I'm more diligent, or I work harder, but because there are aspects of our personalities that emerge. But you're talking about that ability to share and, transmit information.
I like telling stories.
Yeah.
Exploration in geoscience is really about finding clues and putting the story together. So telling that story is really important down the road.
Well, thank you for giving us a glimpse into your job and your career path.
Thank you, Stu, for having me.